Welcome to our happy-go-lucky friend, little Billy O'Reilly from down the street. Hello, Bill. How are you?
6'4", Beck. Don't be diminishing my height.
You are an enormous person. Have you ever?
But I'm in shape.
Have you ever met what's Ham Hands, the guy with the bananas for fingers?
Tony Robbins.
Tony Robbins. Have you ever met Tony Robbins?
No, I have not.
No. I was wondering which one's bigger. I think
I'm smarter than he is. I don't know.
I don't know about that. How much money you got? How much money you got? Have you seen his vacation houses in Hawaii and everything else?
Yeah. Well, look, Tony, if he earned it, that's fine with me.
All right.
Let's get back to the border, Beck. Who was the first human being in the media to call for the guard on the border? And you know who that was.
Sean Hannity.
No.
It was Tucker Carlson.
Right after 9/11.
Oh, Laura Ingraham.
No. It was me. Right after 9/11, we put out exactly the same plan, and I'm sure that Donald Trump remembers this.
Yes.
That Donald Trump instituted yesterday. Exactly the same. Identical. All right? So why did I want to do it? Because after 9/11, we obviously had security concerns about terrorists infiltrating into the United States, and everyone knows that the easiest way to get here is to come across the southern border. There's no easier way. So I said, you know what? Let's put the guard down there and back up the Border Patrol and stop not only terrorists from coming here, but also millions of illegal aliens who had been coming here since Ronald Reagan's administration and all of these narcotics. So the Posse Comitatus people went out of the woodwork. Oh, you can't use the military to enforce the law civilly. That's not true, by the way. If it's a national security problem, you can use the National Guard and the military to enforce the law. And you've seen it during riots. You've seen it in other national security crises that if the president or a sitting governor wants more security, they can call the military to provide it. So the question then becomes, who would oppose this, Beck? And I want you and Stu, who would oppose better security at the southern border to stop drugs and millions of people coming in here? Who would oppose that and why?
I would imagine that the Democrats would oppose that for votes for votes and for instability and chaos. And Republicans would also would like to have the jobs.
Well, okay,
cheap labor.
But there's an emotional reason that the Democratic Party, not everybody in it, but many, want. It's an open border play. Would you agree with me on that?
Yes.
If you don't want the border secure, you essentially are saying, we're okay with 12 million illegal aliens like Jerry Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry Brown's okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have a problem with 12 million people here illegally. He doesn't have one problem in the world with it. All right? So you have to start there. They don't have any problem, and the narcotics are unbelievable. So just the National Guard's presence at the border, just the fact that they're there, the trucks and the guys, that's going to give the cartel pause.
I want to play, so anybody who's listening to Bill here, I want to play a shootout from the cartel and the Mexican army on our border, just across our border. This is what is going on right now on our border. If that doesn't sound like a war, you're out of your mind. That's what's happening right across our border.
Is that in Juarez? Did you pick that up from Juarez?
No, that is right across from a town. I don't even remember the name of the town. A little teeny town I think I've never even heard of.
Yeah, because Juarez is the murder capital of the world. All right, so we all know, anybody who's fair-minded in it, we all know that there's danger. And that this 1500 march, which is now broken up because the Mexicans got scared that Trump would do something with NAFTA if they didn't stop it. So the Mexican government had stopped the 1,500 march of migrants toward the U.S. border. But everybody knows there's danger down there. Nobody is going to put forth that Mexico is an under-control country. It's not. And so we have a national security problem, just like the Israelis had the problem with Hamas and on their border. Same thing. Okay? There's danger. People are dying. All right? About 50,000 people died in Mexico, and a lot of them on the border.
By the way, that is across the border from Donna, Texas.
Yeah, I don't know where that's probably near Nuevo Laredo or whatever. But the point of the matter is you got to get to the root cause of the opposition in the United States. There shouldn't be any opposition. This should be applauded. This is good to protect Americans from danger, from drugs, from violence, from people who are coming here illegally. Now, that's not necessarily dangerous, but to Kate Steinle, it certainly was. All right, so why? I wrote a column today. It's posted on BillO'Reilly.com on whiteness. All right, you read it. I sent it to you. All right, on whiteness. This is the root of the left's opposition to securing the border. They don't want white people in charge of the country anymore. So get as many minority people from as many places as you can to come into the United States to strangle whiteness.
Okay, so may I take this idea of yours and expand in a different direction? I'm not sure that is really what the left is all about. They use race. They're using whiteness. But I think, Bill, last night I went back and I read You Don't Need a Weatherman to Know Which Way the Wind Blows, which was the manifesto of the Weather Underground. I think they are doing the manifesto. They're doing what they set out to do, just in a different way. That whole thing was to cobble together everyone you could to topple the United States government and to topple our system. And what they were talking about was anyone that can be used, who has a grudge, who we can come in and make sure that we separate them from that power structure, we're going to. And if you read their manifesto, it's the same thing. They are just going after those who believe in capitalism and the typical American idea of freedom. And I think that's what they're doing. They're just sowing the seeds of revolution.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically saying to the American people, we oppose any kind of border security because we feel that migrants should be treated with dignity, and we are a welcoming nation, and we should let everybody in.
Right.
Now, they're not going to say we should let everybody in, but they will say the other two things. All right, we're a welcoming nation. We ought to feel sorry. We have to. But I'm telling you, if you listen to the far left right now, it's all about whiteness, white privilege, white supremacy.
Correct.
And I'm saying to myself, what is going on? What? And they brag about this census says that white Americans will be a minority soon, and this is a celebratory thing. Now, I don't care what anybody's skin color is. I just want the best people, and it doesn't matter to me. But if you're going to social engineer, and that's what this is all about, it's social engineering. And they'll take the narcotics. They don't care about opioids or anything like that. So what? The cartels are smuggling, so what? Do they care? Did you ever hear one liberal Democrat stand up and say, we've got to fight these cartels? Ever? Once? I never have. Ever.
Bill O'Reilly, his op-ed today is The Idiocy of Whiteness, and we'll get more of that and more on the News of the Week with Bill O'Reilly in just a second.
Glenn Beck.
So, Bill O'Reilly, when I was at Fox, and we were going through boycotts, Fox was actually leaking things to bad, the other side, and I think trying to put me in my place, which is fine. It's the way they did their business at the time. I found it really good news that they came out as strongly as they did for Laura Ingraham. It kind of surprised me, and I was glad to see it. Your thoughts?
Well, I think they had to do it because of me. Media Matters did the same thing, sponsor boycott on me after you. So that this is the fourth one because they tried it on Hannity too. After that murder investigation thing, so there were 4 Media Matters-led investigations. Unfortunately, this kid, David Hogg, allowed Media Matters to manipulate him, and Media Matters used him to drive the sponsor boycott against Ingraham. So when you have 4 pretty big names, Beck, O'Reilly, Hannity, Ingraham, all being attacked by Media Matters, I mean, the company had to stand up and say, we're not going to throw Laura Ingraham over the side, because if it didn't, I mean, their numbers are down anyway. I don't know what the future would have been over there, but I was happy that they protected Laura in the sense that this boycott thing is so un-American, it just drives me crazy.
Do you kind of
bad this is?
Do you kind of in a way feel bad for David Hogg? He was on TV the other day. Though there's no shadowy characters behind me. He not. I feel bad for him if he doesn't know he's being used. You think he knows?
It's an absolute. On BillO'Reilly.com, we listed. All right. All of the interactions back and forth, the timeline between Media Matters and David Hogg. And I want to know where are Mr. Hogg's parents? I mean, we
thought
don't
of that this
heard
morning.
A word from them. But there's no doubt that Media Matters coordinated with this teenager to attack Laura Ingraham and try to ruin her career.
And why do you say that there's no doubt?
Because of the timeline. Because Media Matters, if you look at right after Laura tweeted about Mr. Hogg's college situation, which he had talked about on television, within hours, all right, Media Matters was in compiling sponsors and then gave them to David Hogg, who then tweeted them out. David Hogg has no capacity to find out Laura Ingram's sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
You know that.
Mm-hmm.
All right? But Media Matters has all the Fox News sponsors, and they just funneled it over to him and then used him as the spearhead for the boycott. And then, of course, the company's panicked. You can't come up against a 17-year-old Parkland survivor. So it was a very look, Media Matters, these are serious people. I mean, they are in business to ruin all with whom they disagree politically. Yes. And they have a very well-organized machine, and they know these boycotts work. So Fox News knows that. They know it. They've been through it 4 times. And so they had to finally say, we're not going to play into this.
Ben Shapiro said, mutually assured destruction worked in the Cold War. You can't just let somebody nuke your cities. And he made the point we ought to turnabout is fair play. He went after Eichenwald, and Eichenwald is out everywhere now. Do you think the right should respond in kind? No.
It's so immoral what they're doing, the far left is doing. But there is something called tortious interference, where that is against the law, civil law. And that's where you can go. And I'm looking at that because these people are trying to destroy industries, businesses, and people. They want to destroy people.
All right. I want to get into, because there was more released yesterday. In court, I guess, something was unsealed, and I'd like to get your response on that, and I think that's what you're alluding to on torturous interference. We'll go there with Bill O'Reilly next.
Glenn Beck, Mercury. This is the Glenn Beck Program.
So the New York Times has written yet another story on Bill O'Reilly and how he silenced his accusers. Bill, they say that you forced these women to claim or to disclaim the materials that they had, audio recordings or diaries, as counterfeit and forgeries if they ever became public.
I forced them.
Well, I guess that's the deal. It says the two women reached settlements, but they were required to turn over evidence and include audio recordings of diaries, and they were required to disclaim the materials. I mean, why would someone sign something like that, Bill?
I have no idea. All I can tell you, Beck, is that I have to now go through the court system. I tried to stay out of the system to protect my family. I can't. So the attacks on me are relentless. They're not going to stop. Everybody knows why they're in play. So all I can do is now go through the legal system.
Okay, so hang on just a second. I was being facetious when I said
no, I know you were,
them.
but you know what
they obviously
about.
Right. Well, hang on just a second. Here's my issue with this. I don't know. I know what you have told me, which is very little. You've never said anything other than I can't talk about it because of court proceedings, et cetera, et cetera. But from what little I know, the only other thing that I know is coming from these guys and leaking this material. Now, the court system will figure this all out, and it will all be I hope it will. Well,
I hope that it will.
Well,
there's no other recourse for me now. I mean, I just can't. I have to now take it in, and it'll never. I have come to the realization that in my life, no matter how many years I have left, this will never stop. It will never stop because they fear me. And that's it. They're going to just use whatever they can use. So rather than do it in the press or on the Glenn Beck program, basically going to do it in the court system and pray that the court system will operate the way it should, on evidence and on the law.
So Bill, here's the real question. The court system did work. You did go make a
but they yeah, of course.
Right.
I did what I had to do to protect those around me. But now they have apparently decided that they're just not going to live up to whatever it is that the accommodation that was reached. So they're not going to live up to it.
How did the judge come to that yesterday and unseat?
I have no idea. I got to leave that to my attorneys. I don't know. I am just basically an American citizen asking for justice. That's all I am right now. I have to throw myself on the court. I don't know why they're ruling the way they're ruling. I don't. Well,
doesn't this take apart every single settlement that?
Absolutely. Nobody in this country can ever sign a confidential settlement with anybody and expect that will be upheld from now on.
What does that do to it? Forget about you for a second. What does that do?
No settlements. Everything will have to be adjudicated. The courts will be overwhelmed.
Not only that, doesn't that hurt the people that actually? I mean, because giant corporations the idea was.
You can do unintended consequences all day long on it, but it is apparent that legal documents and contracts are not being upheld. And if the courts do not stop that, then you're going to have anarchy in the civil justice system, which I think you have now.
All right. We'll move on.
There's a breaking thing about what we talked about in the first segment here. This just broke on Mediaite, which is a website. Mm-hmm. It's an article by a left-wing guy, and I'm going to quote it. Securing the border is red meat for Trump's bigoted base, who desperately want to keep America white. Ironically, Trump will be spending their tax dollars to serve them red meat. Will they care? Probably not, if it prevents the browning of America.
Bill, do you know anybody personally in your circle, because I don't, that thinks that way?
That it's
that we we're just going to get
the border security is all about
we got to keep America white. We just got to keep America white.
I don't know anybody who thinks that way. No, that's an excellent question.
I don't know a single person.
Regular folks don't think that way, but this is why the opposition to border security is so vehement. It's all about getting white people out of positions of power.
I think it is all about getting people of color to hate white people. That we may be saying the same thing, but I think it's people trying to cobble together a coalition around hatred. I mean, why would you?
There are haters involved in it. I don't want to generalize and say everybody who opposes border security.
Oh, I'm not saying that.
Not everybody.
Yeah, I'm not saying
there
that.
There's the people who believe in open borders for humanitarian.
Yes.
But what is not being told, except on programs like yours and mine, all right, to the folks is there is a reason that the far left doesn't want border security. And it has nothing to do with humanitarian. It doesn't have anything to do with that. It has to do with getting more influence in California, in Arizona, in other states from minorities.
Well, that was the argument on the census, is that California, didn't want to, have the question, are you a legal citizen? My suggestion was, well, why California? Why don't you just suggest that you count non-citizens as 3/5 a person?
Dred Scott. Look, compare California, the nation's largest state, to what it was when Ronald Reagan was governor there, to what it is now. Ronald Reagan could never be elected anything in California now, ever. The Republican Party doesn't exist except for a few counties. And it's because of this massive influx of immigrants and people of color. And they have flocked into the Democratic precincts, which openly promise them sanctuary and money. And therefore, California is bankrupt. Therefore, it has the highest tax states in the union to pay off all of the promises that they've made to the new voters. But the new voters now have tilted it out so that there's never going to be a Republican elected in California or New York, because New York City did exactly the same thing. The same thing.
Does it have anything? I keep going back to the radicals of the 1960s, because everything is so radical right now, and it all seems to be playing into, again, almost the Cloward and Piven overwhelm the system. There is no way for the state of California, which is already taxed to death, there is no way for them to pay for all of the services.
No, they can't pay for it.
Right. So, but collapse is in their future.
To them. It doesn't matter, because they hold political power in Sacramento. And so they can pass their insane agendas that people are, wait, what now? What are you telling me? I can't drink coffee now? I got coffee label? What? Who? And this is the reason that we have a porous border and a border that's dangerous. It's actually dangerous. It's all about voting. It's all about power. It's all about getting the white people out of power. And people should know what the real reason is.
Bill O'Reilly from BillO'Reilly.com. What do you have coming up?
We have a interesting take on why the media, okay, they've lost the Russian collusion thing, Beck. You know that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's over. All right? So it's now, okay, we got to get Trump. We can't stop. You know, the rules of radicals, Saul Alinsky, is you can't stop. That's what's happening to me. You got to continue, because people then get exhausted and say, okay, we're better off without whoever's being attacked. That's the strategy. So the women, all right, they came up after the Russian thing. That didn't really work out for them, as Trump's Rasmussen approval rating's 50% now. It didn't work that well. So now where next for Donald Trump? Where next? And that's what we're going to do on BillO'Reilly.com tonight.
Thank you very much, Bill O'Reilly.
All right.
BillO'Reilly.com. Good to talk to you, Bill. Have a good week.